Hello, everyone. Quick grounding moment before we start. There's someone occupying space in in your awareness right now. You might be trying not to think about them. You might be telling yourself you're over it. But they're there in the background, in the quiet moments. And there's a reason this title caught your attention. Let's explore what's actually happening. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down for a second, step away from whatever you're distracting yourself with, because there's something you need to hear about, a communication that's building, about words that haven't been spoken yet but are forming, about a conversation that's sitting in someone's throat, waiting for the right moment, the right courage, the right circumstances to finally emerge. And you've been carrying assumptions about what this person thinks, what they feel, what they want from you or don't want from you. And those assumptions, they're incomplete. Stay focused. Because I'm not here to tell you exactly when a phone call is coming. I'm not here to promise that tomorrow at 3:15 your phone will ring and it'll be them. That's not how any of this works. That's not how energy moves. That's not how people make decisions about when to reach out. But what I can tell you is this: there's someone in your world, someone you've been connected to, someone you've thought about more than you'd probably admit, someone whose silence has been louder than their words, and they're holding something, holding words they haven't said, holding feelings they haven't expressed, holding intentions they haven't clarified. And that holding, it's reaching a breaking point. Not because I'm declaring it, but because internal pressure builds, because unexpressed truth creates discomfort, because sitting with unsaid things eventually becomes more painful than the vulnerability of saying them. Can you feel this? This sense that something's pending with someone? Drop a comment if you know exactly who I'm talking about, because here's what I'm tracking in the energy around this potential communication. This person has been wrestling, and I don't mean casually considering, I mean genuinely struggling with what to do, what to say, whether to reach out or maintain distance. They've had full internal conversations with you that you're not privy to. They've rehearsed different versions of what they might say. They've played out scenarios of how you might respond, and none of it feels quite right yet. None of it captures what they're actually trying to express without creating risk they're not sure they can handle. Because what they want to tell you, it's not surface level. It's not casual check-in content. It's not, hey, how have you been, small talk. This is substantial. This is the kind of thing that shifts dynamics. This is communication that, once spoken, changes the landscape between you. And they know that, which is why they haven't done it yet, which is why they keep picking up the phone and putting it down, which is why they keep drafting and deleting. They're scared of what happens next, scared of your reaction, scared of making themselves vulnerable in ways they usually protect against. Does this match what you've been intuiting about someone's energy? Let me know in the comments, because let me get more specific about what kind of content I'm sensing in this pending communication. For some of you, it's an apology, a real one, not the performative kind, not the I'm sorry you feel that way deflection, but genuine acknowledgement of harm caused, mistakes made, moments mishandled. This person has been sitting with their own behavior, reviewing it, seeing it more clearly than they did when they were in it, and they're recognizing that they messed up, that they hurt you, that they handled things in ways they regret, and they want to say that They want you to know they see it now, even if they didn't see it then. They want to repair something that their own actions damaged. For others of you, it's a confession of feelings. Feelings they've been carrying but not expressing. Feelings they minimized or denied or tried to convince themselves weren't real. This person has been fighting what they feel for you, telling themselves it's not that deep, trying to create distance to make the feelings go away, attempting to move on as if what existed between you was casual, and it's not working. The feelings aren't fading. If anything, distance has intensified them, and they're reaching the point where not telling you feels worse than the risk of telling you. For others, still, it's clarification of intentions. They've been vague. They've been non-committal. They've been keeping things ambiguous in ways that served them but confused you. And they're finally ready to be direct, ready to tell you what they actually want, ready to stop playing in the gray area and speak clearly about where they stand and what they're available for. Which one resonates most with your situation? Or is it something else entirely? Comment below and let me know. Because here's what you need to understand about the timing of this communication. It's not about a specific date. It's not cosmically ordained to happen on March 27th or any other particular day. The timing is about when their internal pressure exceeds their external resistance. When not saying it becomes more uncomfortable than saying it. When the cost of silence outweighs the risk of speaking. And they're approaching that point. They might be right at it. They might be days away or hours away or already past it and just waiting for the exact right moment to act. But it's close, closer than you probably think based on the silence you've been experiencing. Because silence isn't absence. Silence is often the sound of someone fighting with themselves about whether to break it. And this person, they're fighting hard. They're weighing consequences. They're imagining outcomes. They're trying to predict how you'll receive what they have to say. And all of that internal activity, it's invisible to you. So from your perspective, it might look like nothing's happening, like they've moved on, like you don't occupy space in their awareness anymore, but you do significant space, more than you realize. Have you been misreading someone's silence as indifference? Let me know in the comments, because I want to talk about what this communication might actually sound like when it comes. It might not be eloquent. It might not be perfectly articulated. It might be messy, stumbling, uncertain in its delivery, because this isn't something they've practiced saying out loud. This is something they've been thinking, feeling, wrestling with internally, but haven't found the words for yet. So when they finally do reach out, when they finally make contact, when you finally hear from them, there might be nervous energy. There might be awkward pauses. There might be starts and stops as they try to express what they're feeling without completely exposing themselves. And if you're expecting some smooth, rehearsed, perfect delivery, you might miss the significance of what they're actually trying to say. You might focus on how they're saying it instead of what they're saying underneath the imperfect delivery. So when this communication comes, if it comes through call, text, showing up in person, however it manifests, pay attention to the content beneath the form. Pay attention to what they're risking by reaching out. Pay attention to the vulnerability they're displaying, even if they're displaying it clumsily, because the fact that they're communicating at all, the fact that they're breaking silence, the fact that they're initiating contact after whatever distance has existed, that means something, that costs something, that requires something from them. And recognizing that doesn't mean you have to respond in any particular way, doesn't mean you owe them anything, doesn't mean you have to receive their words in a specific manner, but it does mean seeing clearly what's actually happening instead of filtering it through your hurt or your assumptions or your expectations. Does this feel important for you to hear right now? Drop a comment if this is landing. Because here's what else I'm sensing about this situation. You've been telling yourself a story about this person, about why they haven't reached out, about what their silence means, about how they feel or don't feel about you. And that story, it's been protective. It's kept you from hoping too much. It's prevented you from staying stuck, waiting for someone who might never come back around. It served a purpose, but it's also been limiting because the story you've been telling yourself to protect yourself, it might not be accurate. It might be based on partial information. It might be filling in gaps with assumptions that feel safe but aren't necessarily true. And when this communication comes, when you hear what they actually have to say, when you get access to information you didn't have before, your story is going to get challenged, your assumptions are going to get tested, your understanding of the situation is going to shift, and that shift, it might be uncomfortable because it means acknowledging that maybe you were wrong about some things. Maybe you misread their silence. Maybe what you convinced yourself was true to make moving on easier wasn't actually true. And sitting with that, integrating that, adjusting your understanding based on new information, that requires flexibility. That requires being willing to update your perspective. That requires holding your conclusions loosely enough that they can change when evidence changes. Can you do that? Can you stay open to being wrong about what you've been believing? Let me know in the comments, because I want to address what might be your biggest concern right now. What if they reach out and it's not what you're hoping for? What if the communication disappoints? What if what they want to say isn't aligned with what you want to hear? And that's a valid concern. That's a real possibility. Not every communication is going to be the words you've been waiting for. Sometimes people reach out to apologize, but not to reconcile. Sometimes they confess feelings, but aren't ready to act on them. Sometimes they clarify intentions in ways that don't match what you were hoping their intentions were. And if that happens, if the communication comes but isn't what you wanted, you'll handle it. Just like you've handled every other disappointment, just like you've survived every other moment of things not going the way you hoped. You'll process, you'll grieve if grieving is needed. You'll adjust your expectations and your actions based on what's actually true instead of what you wished were true. And having clarity, even disappointing clarity, is still better than continuing to exist in uncertainty, because uncertainty keeps you stuck. Uncertainty prevents you from making clean choices. Uncertainty leaves you in limbo where you can't fully move forward but can't quite let go either. But clarity allows movement. Even if the movement is away from what you wanted, even if the clarity reveals that this person or situation isn't aligned with where you're headed, at least then you know, at least then you can act from knowledge instead of assumption. Does that perspective help? Does it make the uncertainty more bearable? Comment below if this reframes things, because here's what I really want you to hear. Whatever this person wants to tell you, whatever communication is pending, whatever words are forming in their mind and heart, It doesn't define you. It doesn't determine your worth. It doesn't control your future. Their words are just information. Data about where they are, what they're feeling, what they're capable of offering or not offering. And you get to decide what to do with that information. You get to choose how to respond. You get to determine what role, if any, this person gets to play in your life moving forward. So when the call comes, when the text arrives, when the communication manifests, receive it from your center, not from your wound, not from your hope, not from your fear, from the grounded place that knows your value doesn't depend on what anyone else sees or doesn't see. From the clear place that can hear information without immediately making it mean something about you. From the strong place that's been building inside you through all the silence, all the waiting, all the processing you've been doing. That place, it's solid, it's real, and it can handle whatever comes. Have you been building this kind of internal strength? Let me know in the comments, because I also want to talk about what you might be feeling as you wait for this communication, anticipation, probably that nervous energy of knowing something's coming but not knowing when or what exactly it will contain. Hope, maybe. Despite your best efforts to protect yourself, despite telling yourself not to expect anything, there's still hope that this will be the words you've been wanting. Anxiety, definitely, because the unknown is uncomfortable, because you've been here before waiting for someone to reach out, building it up in your mind, and then being let down. And all of that is normal. All of that makes sense. All of that is part of being human and caring about someone and existing in the uncertainty of not knowing how they feel or what they want. But underneath all those surface feelings, there's something else. There's strength, there's resilience, there's the knowledge that you've been okay without this communication so far, and you'll continue to be okay whether it comes or not. And that knowing, that's your foundation. That's what keeps you stable even when emotions are swirling. That's what allows you to stay present instead of spiraling into worst case scenarios or fantasy outcomes. So feel what you're feeling. Don't suppress it. Don't judge yourself for hoping or fearing or anticipating, but also remember what you know. Remember who you've become. Remember that you're not the same person who would have been shattered by silence or desperate for words. You're someone different now, someone stronger, someone clearer. And whatever this communication brings, that person can handle it. Does this feel true? Does this match who you've been becoming? Drop a comment if you are recognizing this growth. Because here's my final piece of guidance for you as you navigate this. When the communication comes, and based on what I'm tracking, it's coming. Don't make immediate decisions about what it means or what you should do. Just receive it, just listen, just take in the information without immediately needing to respond or react or figure out your next move. Give yourself space to process, to feel whatever comes up, to think about what you actually want versus what you think you should want. Because in the moment reactions are rarely our clearest thinking. In the moment responses often come from old patterns, old wounds, old versions of ourselves. But if you give yourself time, if you sit with the information for a bit, if you let yourself get clear before you respond, you make better choices. You act from alignment instead of reaction. You honor both what they're saying and what you actually need. And that that creates better outcomes than rushing to respond just to fill the silence. So be patient with yourself. Be gentle with the process. Be willing to take the time you need to get clear. You've waited this long. You can wait a little longer to respond from your truth instead of your trigger. Can you commit to that? To receiving before responding? Let me know in the comments. Because ultimately, here's what this is all about. Someone wants to communicate something to you that they haven't been able to say yet. And that communication is building, and it's going to happen. And when it does, you're going to have information you don't currently have. And that information is going to shift things. How it shifts them depends partly on what they say and partly on how you receive it and respond to it. But either way, movement happens, clarity emerges, the limbo ends, and that's what you've actually been waiting for. Not necessarily the specific words you've been hoping for, but the clarity that allows you to move forward with knowledge instead of assumption. So the call is coming, the text is forming, the communication is building, and you're ready for it. More ready than you think. Trust that. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.